All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Ocast, your island gateway to all things geek. And we're back for some more wrestling action with your Hebridean Hammerlock. And I'm your host, Cal, and joining me tonight, Graham. What's happening with you?
Not a lot, just back from a trip to London, which was fantastic, but really looking forward to tonight.
Oh, that's great. So, when we initially spoke about doing a wrestling segment on the show, it was obviously we had to get some wrestlers on to talk to. And we live in Scotland. Colour of Scotland is blue. We live on the Heather Isle. So I think it was just fate. There could only be, to quote Highlander, there can only be one. And so we are very, very honoured. Our first ever wrestler is the awesome Heather Blue. Welcome to the Hebridean Hammerlock.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Okay, with that, I'll hand over to you, Graham, to kick things off tonight.
Okay, so from what I have learned, you kicked off your career just under 5 years ago, back in 2021. What was it that made you decide that you wanted to take that first step into the ring?
Well, so I started watching wrestling. I was pretty late to the game there. So 2016 is when I started watching wrestling. Strictly mostly just like WWE. I was over at my friend's house and she had turned SummerSlam. I was watching it with her and I'm like, yeah, like this is cool. I like this. And then in terms of transitioning into becoming a wrestler, I found out through the internet that there was a place that was about 20 minutes down the street from where I live that did like wrestling seminars and training. So I was like, oh, I want to go check out this seminar. Let's see what's up with it. And so I went to the seminar and they had a really cool like setup and everything. Like I said, it was super close to my house. So I was like, this is something fun and interesting that I'd like to try. They invited me to come back a week after that to have like my first training session with them. And then the pandemic happened. So I had to put that on pause for a while. But I had a lot of fun and I was like, I want more of this.
And what was it like taking that very first bump?
Brutal. They always tell you, you know, prepare yourself for it, but there's really is no feeling like it. And you know, of course you have to learn how to do it properly, but just the first time if you just full send it like I did, I was very sore for several days and I was like, do I have what it takes to do this regularly? Because that was just practice bumps and that was it. And eventually I learned how to do it properly and you know, now it's funny because almost 5 years in or however long at this point, it's almost, if I have like a weekend off where I'm not wrestling, I get more stiff and tight and bumping fixes it.
Knocks it back into place for you.
Yeah.
How often do you get a weekend off?
Well, I try to have at least one weekend off. So my shoot job that I work at also works weekends. So I usually try to have at least one weekend where I work there. I try to be booked usually at least once a week, either a Friday or a Saturday, if not both, 2 to 3 weeks throughout the month if I can. Yeah.
Because I think certainly when I've looked at anything to do with the independent scene, it looks like more than a full-time job in itself because you are responsible for your own bookings, for your own gear, for your own merch, for absolutely everything. So you've got all of that plus, like you say, your shoot job.
Yeah.
That's quite a grind.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a busy schedule, but I feel like I balance it pretty well. So
I'm just going to come in there with that. Like, what was that feeling like in your debut match? Was it nerves or did the excitement take over, like when you first walked out of the curtain?
Yeah. So, and this still happens to this day sometimes, but you know, you'll be just in the anticipation of going out there really is what gets me. So I will be, you know, I pace back and forth. I'm going through the motions and, you know, just getting in, I call it match mode, just mentally preparing myself and shake out the nerves and I'll be right there behind the curtain waiting. And the second that my music hits and the curtain goes open and I'm out there, it's like, okay, we're locked in, we're good. But yeah, leading up to that, I'm a hot mess sometimes, I'll tell you. Say that again? Sorry.
Watching some of your matches on YouTube from the clips that I've seen, you went through a few different entrance themes. Which one has really felt the most appropriate for you?
So kind of depending on the stages of things. So of course, course, when I originally debuted, my moniker was Relentless Heather Blue. So the theme song I had for that, which my original theme song, I chose Relentless by New Year's Day. So that kind of all went together. That one was really, it gave me a good foundation, especially because I was a baby face for pretty much that whole run when I used the Relentless moniker. So it just kind of tied together. And then when I switched over to the Heartless moniker, and I started using Heartless by Kanye West. That one was super fun. It's, it's a song, everyone knows it, everyone sings along to it. So that was pretty fun for the hype. Currently I use Bad Romance, but the Hailstorm rendition of it. So that one's been fun too. It works both for like babyface and heel work, especially I'm usually booked more as a heel than I am as a babyface now, so it kind of works back and forth for both. So they all have special meaning to me depending on the time of my career, but I'll switch it up every now and again, kind of depending on where I'm booked at and what I'm using. They all have different places in my heart for me.
How does your in-ring style vary from when you were Relentless to when you were Heartless, or even as the O'Hare Talbot?
Yeah, so like I said, more so than not, the Relentless moniker, which I really kind of rarely use anymore. I was strictly babyface, so it was a lot more high intensity, high energy, a lot more crowd interaction. Whereas with the Heartless moniker, it's a lot more, kind of standoffish, heelish, more. Look at me and what I'm doing, and less of the, yay, we're all happy to be here, kind of stuff. So it's a lot more, I guess cocky is the word, with the Heartless moniker. So a lot more, full of myself, if you will, a lot more dramatized.
Yeah, so like what I'm hearing is like, it's a crowd work's a bigger part of being a heel, is it, than being the babyface, you would think.
Yeah, depending on where I'm at, there's a lot of places, especially a lot of my homegrown promotions where I'm frequent at. I will have people that just love to hate me, and it's it's humbling in a way, but it means I'm doing my job correctly. But it's something, man. We've had people who are making entrances come out and just be like right there in your face, and it's like, oh, but then you're like, I can't be fazed by this. I'm doing my job correctly, but it can get intense sometimes, but like I said, I'm doing my job correctly, so I can't be too mad at it.
One of the matches that I saw that just a really nice moment, and it was your match with Honey Badger.
Yeah.
And there was this little kid that was helping you out at the end. That just seemed really sweet. Sorry.
That was certainly a match that was hard. Yeah. There are there are certain ones like, oh gosh, I can't even at this point remember how many matches I've had. I wish I would have kept a better like track record of all the numbers of matches I've had so I can like refer back to them, because there's times where I'll be like, oh yeah, I did have that match. That did happen. Yeah, so I'll be reminded of certain ones. I'll be like, wait, I did work with this person, or I did work at this place, or whatever the case is there. And it's kind of like a fun little reminder. I'm like, that did happen. There is footage of this. It is on the internet.
Who's been your favorite person to work with so far?
Well, okay. So in terms of, I guess, like bigger names, and then in terms of local talent, let's see here. I would say, so local, Leela Hall, if you guys are familiar with her, she's also from Michigan. She's really fun to work with. She's very athletic. We always have pretty good chemistry in ring, and we always have really fun matches. So I'd say her. I would say Rory Shield. She's also a local talent here. She's really fun to work with. We always get along really well. Coming up with cool things to really bounce off each other, if you will, kind of bring out the best in each other, I think. And then in terms of big names, I would say, so most recently at a local show here, XICW Detroit, we were on their anniversary show, and myself and my two tag partners worked Killer Cross and Scarlett and Jimmy Jacobs. Mm-hmm. So that, I would say, has probably been the most fun. They're very, very sweet people, very kind, very, just they have so much knowledge that they're willing to pass along to you. Very safe workers, super, like I said, just super pleasant to work with. And then I would also say I only had one match with her, and it's been years. It wasn't my best work. I was very green and very nervous. But Marty Bell, she was really, really kind and sweet to work with too. Yeah. So I was not my best work. I was so nervous. I was like, oh, this is really cool. I'd love to have another match with her again sometime down the line. But yes, I would say those would be probably my top people that I enjoy working with the most.
I think certainly the Cross and Scarlet had the clip that went viral.
Yes, yeah, that was probably my biggest moment.
Yeah. Where did that idea come from?
So, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was something that was brought up in the locker room, I think by Cross and Scarlet, if I'm not mistaken. And it was kind of bounced around as a, haha, this would be funny. What if we do this? And then everyone was thinking about it, and we're like, well, why not? Like, let's think about it and just let's do it. So, we prepared for it, and yeah, it went off without a hitch. It was super fun. I to this day, people still will, I mean, it's only been a couple months since it's happened, but that is one of the biggest things that people do. Go, oh, I recognize you from this, and I'm like, that was me. I even had I had a car repair guy that was fixing my car for me. We were chit chatting. He knows I'm a wrestler. He was asking me, hey, do you have anything going on this weekend? Anything? And this was after all that had happened, and I like, yeah, nothing too crazy. I think I was going to like Wisconsin or something that weekend. And he's like, I came across this video on TikTok, and it was this girl with blue hair getting thrown through the ceiling by Killer Cross. And I was like, that was me. And he's like, oh my gosh, no way. And I was like, yes, that was me.
So,
Yeah, so definitely not a bad thing to be viral about.
I'm just curious, do you come from a wrestling family, or were you the first in your family to really get into it?
So I'm the first. So I said I had family members who are big wrestling fans. My uncle Matt was a big wrestling fan. I said my best friend and my cousin, who I was at her house when we started watching wrestling. She was around it a lot more as a child than I was, so she was, more into it at the time, and that's what got me into it, of course. But yeah, I am the first and so far only wrestler in my family. But recently they have had, I have a nephew that has started like mat wrestling, which is really cool because we always talk about wrestling, and he'll show me his graphs, and it'll be fun. But yeah.
And I'm just curious, what was the reaction in the family when you told them doing it and becoming a wrestler? Were they pleasantly surprised or just totally shocked?
Yeah, at first they were like, okay, that's a fun hobby to have, to try out and to see how you like it and what all goes into it. I remember I brought my mom with me to my first ever like training class. And so she was watching me learn how to take these bumps and watching people do stuff in the ring, and she's like, this is really intense. Like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, like it's fine. So she'll come to shows every now and again. Like, she was just at a couple of my shows that I was on recently, and she's like really, really into it, and she's super, yeah, like I said, she's super into it. She'll ask me questions about things like she, is one of the wrestlers and she knows things. It's super funny. She'll use like wrestler terminology with me, which I think is really funny because it's things she's picked up from me talking to her about it. And she'll be like, like what well, who are you wrestling? Who's going over? What's going on with this? Are you working heel or baby face? And I'm like, just sit back and watch.
Does your mum boot you if you're a heel? Or does she still cheer?
Yeah, so at first she's like, yeah, that's my baby, and I'm the youngest of her three kids, and I was like, no, Mom, like you have to boo me. I need you to help me do my job here. And she's like, oh, okay. So she'll tell other family members, like if she brings like her friends or our family members with her to shows, she'll be like, you guys have to boo Heather. You guys can't cheer for her. And it doesn't always work. There's still those occasional like, yeah, woohoo, cheers and everything. But I'm like, no, I'm very I need you to boo me if I'm being a heel. I need you to play the part, please.
I'm guessing from what you're saying, do you find the heel work more enjoyable? Do you have more fun being a heel?
I do now. So when I first started, as traditionally, mostly as a baby face, almost 100% of the time, back then I was like, oh, this is super easy. I like this. It's, I couldn't be a heel or give heat to save my life when I was first working because I was so used to being a baby face. But yes, now I've found it is a lot more fluent, I guess.
Yeah.
especially in my character work, because I found out that I just cut promos like a heel from people that have given me critiques and feedback on it, and now I'm like, if I have to cut a babyface promo, I'm like, all right, I can go generic with it, and I know that I can get there. But if I go like creativity wise, I really have to like lock in. Otherwise, like naturally, it's just gonna come out as a heel promo because I get to I use it. It's funny because I'm a very non-confrontational, very keep to myself, introverted type of person in real life. But as a wrestler, because I use it as an outlet, of course, to be mean to people and get away with it because it's my job. So people be like, this is so different than who you are as a person in real life. And I'm like, yeah, but so it helps me kind of get my frustrations and things out. I can do it with being mean, knowing that it's okay for me to be mean because I don't like to be mean in real life.
I've got to ask about your mum as well. Was she quite shocked when she heard you doing promos, giving heat and all that? Was she a bit,
oh yeah. Yeah.
Did that take her?
Or did you learn to trash
She
talk?
I used to I used to so I would take her to wrestling shows with me when I was still a fan while I was training. So I would go to some local shows that like my trainers and stuff were on as talent, kind of go see what's going on and everything. And she would always laugh because my trainers were traditionally heels at the time too, and she'd be like, this thing that he said or this thing that she said was so funny and just so mean. And I'm like, yeah. And so there's times where I'll say something and she'll be like, oh my gosh, like that was brutal. She's, she know it comes from a place of love.
Was that something that you were keen to pick the brain of Cross Scarlett and Jimmy Jacobs about, just that character work? Because Cross is, he's on such a different level to most people that we see on TV in terms of his character. And he has been since, I remember him as the White Rabbit in Lucha Underground. And then there was something that people always talk about, that natural charisma you can't take your eye off. There was just something about that guy that you're like, I have to see more of this guy. And then he would show up in bigger and bigger promotions.
Yeah. A lot of, so I wasn't able to make it to the seminar that they did. They did a seminar the day of the show down in Detroit. I wasn't able to go to that, but I was there. I was picking their brain at the show about it. Just besides, of course, the physical aspect of things, the in-ring work and the psychology and everything. A lot of it being like character work and things to pick their brains about was really nice. Just sit there and listen about. I do this a lot with Jimmy Jacobs too, because he'll be at a lot of these other XICW shows down in Detroit. He's a regular there. Yep. So, and we were working together for a little bit adjacent. So he would just, if you just get in a room with him and sit down and he starts talking and you just absorb so much, and it comes out naturally sometimes without you even having to really ask. You just kind of, lean in and start a conversation with him, and it'll spiral into like just so much cool knowledge to have. It's great. I really do enjoy learning various things, of course, but the mental aspect of it and the character work from people is it's second to none, really. It's helped me develop my character a lot too. It's been great.
Thinking back to when you were learning, what was the best piece of advice that your trainers gave you?
I would say, so a lot in the beginning when you're learning how to do things and you have to go from point A to point B to point C. A lot of it was just, for me personally, was rushing from point A to point B to point C just to hit the marks. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them would say, smooth is slow, slow is steady, or a variation of those words. So meaning, take your time, make your moments, but, do them well, and then do them fast. So once you have if you're doing a sequence or something, you want to rush, boom, 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 because you want it to be fast, but it's, sloppy. Mm-hmm. Go back, do it slow, do it smooth. Then, that, and a lot of repetition of doing something right until you cannot do it wrong. So a lot of that came from our fundamentals, our bumping, our footwork. And, every now and again, of course, everyone has, moments where it's like, oh, that's, not the cleanest footwork or not the best sequence I've done or whatever. But that is a lot, like your foundations of your wrestling style. Once you get your footing under you and everything is a huge part. Being able to build on top of that, because, you can have these really cool moves and these awesome sequences, but your fundamentals have to be there, of course, first. And So a lot of that was, drilled into me. And like even later on, just from getting like critiques and doing practice matches like with my peers and people a couple years senior of me or whatever too, a lot of that too. And a lot of it is getting in the ring with people who believe in you just as much as you believe in yourself. Because you'll have those moments where you doubt things, or you're like, can I do this cool move? Am I able to make this look cool? Or even just like psychology things. Or does this make sense? Yeah, and a lot of that has been really helpful for me, because you can definitely tell when I'm confident about doing something versus when I'm like, well, let me think about it, and then it brings me back out of my shell, and I'm able to go out there and be me without having to tiptoe.
What's like one move sequence you've done where you were just on the night it just came together so perfect? You always, it's just. Is there a certain sequence or moves that you were just yes?
Yeah, like these are my core things. So I would say once I was able to do like head scissors and the hurricanrana's down, because first couple tries are always a little rough. You're a little nervous. You're up top. You're like, I'm on the top rope here. It's a little bit of a fall down. But once that came together, like I really love doing those types of moves. And my code breakers, so the double knees, face busters, all that, those are ones that have like pretty much been in my moveset since I created one, and have always really kind of been key components of Heather Blue as a wrestler. So I mean, I've made newer ones, or I've added things, or now I do a springboard one, which once I learned how to do that, that's kind of like my go-to finisher.
Yeah.
And it's always fun to do. Of course, ropes aside, because occasionally you'll get in a ring, especially in Michigan sometimes, where the ropes will loosen throughout the night. So you definitely want to make sure that they're tight before you go off of that, because unfortunately there's footage of it all over the internet. I have slipped more than once, and you just do what you have to do at that point. But there's also some really crispy looking ones out there too. So those are the ones that go in the highlight.
Could do the thing AJ Styles did, where he turned a slip into a sort of 3-month arch.
And then the springboard code breaker, especially, I'm always. I save it sometimes. I don't always put it in every single match that I have. But when I do, I usually am rather confident, and I've worked it out beforehand that I'm going to put it in here, and it has a like significant spot in the match, if you will.
I'm coming at this. I'm a returning wrestling fan after many years. Graham's a lifelong. And I've over the weekend I've been watching some documentaries, and there was one interesting one about Macho Man. Apparently he used to send like long lists to his opponents. He was very, very meticulous. And I'm just wondering, are you more meticulous, or do you just like to go with the flow on the night it goes, or do you want it to be like very, finely tuned what the performance is going to be?
A little bit of both. Like I like to have I like to have a general idea of what's going on, and what. I'm very big on what role do I play in this particular show or this particular match. I know that there are some people who are more, specific about like, oh, well, this is who I am as a wrestler. This is the role I generally play on a show that I'm on. And they get stuck in that mindset of, well, I was the main event on this show, and, I'm going to be the opener on this one, but there has to be a bit of a swap almost. If you have to, I like to tune in individually to, okay, instead of just getting stuck on, well, this is how I usually do things. I like to have a general idea, so I know what do they need from me in the role that I'm playing that night. And I can still do it my way, the way Heather Blue does it, but without just sticking to one formula and being like, well, I'll just insert that here and do this. I like to have the major details ironed out, and then in between it can kind of just be, what feels right to put here, or what do you need for this, or whatever the case is. There are a lot of things, especially because they always say card subjects change, or whatever changes may be made day of on shows. You have to be adaptable in that regard, because it does happen, and there are things that are out of everyone's control that you just have to switch in a blink of an eye. Sometimes it's happening in the middle of a match. You just have to figure that out on the fly. So I'm a very adaptable person. I won't lie, I'm not the greatest at coming up with things on the fly. Like immediately. It takes me a minute sometimes to really like be like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. But you know, I like to have just the fine details or the big major, I call them like bullet points given to me, and then I can work with the rest, whatever needs to be filled in there.
Is it the same when it comes to promos?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So it's kind of funny the way that my promos have changed over the years because so when I first started doing them, the trainers that I had at the school that I was wrestling at and training at when I first started, like my first year, they actually had a little Facebook group that was strictly like they called it like a promo bowl. So it was kind of like a competition, and you would send in promos weekly, and they'd give you like a prompt, you know, this person versus this person. And mind you, this was all happening before I ever debuted in the ring. So I was just, you know, I had a whole different like ring name. I had a whole different persona. I was not even Heather Blue yet. But that forced me to really fine tune my promo skills. And that I used to write like novels out of like everything I wanted to say. And then I would have to go back in, fine tune them, make them into bullet points. I would have to set my tripod up, get in gear at the time, which I didn't have professional gear yet, but what I would have worn is gear, full hair done, makeup done in that gimmick, and I'd have to have hours on end to just stand here and talk to myself in a camera and take as many takes as I thought it would take. You know, sometimes it would take me all day, and I would be very frustrated. I have dogs and things like that, so there'd be times, you know, the mail just arrived, and now they're barking for 15 minutes, and now I have to regather myself and all sorts of things. I'd get the perfect promo take, and before I can hit my finish line, they'd start barking, and I'm like, no, my take. But yeah, no, now it's a lot. I'm a lot more in a much simpler way. It's the same process, but it takes me far less time. Or even doing like live promos, you know, they'll hand me a mic and say, okay, go out there in the ring. Here's what you need to be talking about. Here, if they have something that they want to get over or a line they want me to say, here's a line I want you to say, and then go out there and, you know, you have 30 seconds, you have a minute, whatever, get this over and call it a day. I would say, and I wouldn't even consider this one of my like best promos to date by any means, but for the time that it was, because this would have been my like, I would say first year, maybe first year and a half to 2 years. We were at the place that I was training at. At this time, we're doing live shows. I'm from Flint, Michigan, so it was down the street, the same area that we used to train out of this arena, and now we're doing shows here. So, you know, it's hometown, I'm babyface, people are, you know, all about Heather Blue at this time, which was really cool. It helped me a lot, because I was like, okay, yeah, these people like me. And I was in I believe it was a fatal 4-way. And this was before, so they were announcing that they were going to be debuting a women's championship at the promotion. And none of us knew. So the promoter dropped it on us in the locker room, said, hey, looked at me and said, you know, you're going to go out there, you're going to have this match. It's going to go however it's going to go. That really was nothing special in terms of in-ring stuff. And then me, are going to cut a promo on, you know, what are we out here fighting for? You know, that we don't have a championship, we don't have anything else. Like, what are we doing? You know, and so I went out there and I did it. And I remember the promoter coming out and him doing his part. And then I went to the back and he was like, yeah, you really made me feel like a jerk out there. And I was like, well, no, that's what you asked me to do. But yeah, so I found out that I had this promo I had to cut, like, probably about, I don't know, it was definitely the same day. I don't know how long between them and showtime it was, but I was like, wow, I have this promo. Here's my baseline that I got to get out, and we're just gonna, you know, and it's gonna be post match. I'm gonna be blown up and tired, but we'll get it out. And like I said, I'm still proud of that promo. I didn't say it ain't got really nothing on me now, but for what it was back then, I was proud of it. So.
Yeah. Like from Flint, Michigan, and I'm just curious. It's my understanding, like the wrestling crowd is quite different if you go to the southern states. Has that been your experience? And do they perceive you differently down there compared to, like, I don't know my regions, but like Michigan and surrounding area for like my American geography is terrible.
That's all right. Yeah, so like I said, that really was the only, there's not a lot of promotions that run up in Flint. So a lot of the promotions that I work for now run downriver is what we call it. So it's down like Detroit, like the Motor
Yeah.
City area, the more populated, well-known parts of Michigan. So the crowd down there versus the crowd up here, it is different. Like I said, I work a lot of heel work down there. I'm more of the bad guy down here, and I'm more of the baby face up here. So the reception can be different, or even working in different places. Like I frequently go to some promotions in Ohio, so in our neighboring state too. The crowds there are different, and I've been to Indiana. The crowds there are different, so they really are. Like there's definitely things that overlap that, as long as you're doing your job appropriately, get these people to cheer you, get these people to boo you, interact with these people, have these fans, whatever, is always some similarities, but I can tell that there are definitely certain differences. Even going to a place like being a heel in Ohio is extremely easy as someone from Michigan, because all you have to say is that I'm Bill from Flint, Michigan, and then they're like, oh, those are our enemies. So that's an easy one. Now, getting them to cheer you when you say that you're from Michigan is a little different. It's like my boyfriend Max, who's also a wrestler, tag partner, all that. He is from
All right.
the Detroit area, so he is a baby face at this company in Ohio that I'm talking about. Getting them to cheer for him has been such a difficult process for him. He's making it happen, but yeah, they do not mess with people from Michigan down there.
I'm curious about that because I've added you on Facebook and I saw like your boyfriend's a wrestler as well, and you're in a tag.
Mhm.
Does that present any challenges that like your own like your kind of romantic partner being a work partner in a way, and not only that, throwing each other around as well?
It definitely is. It's so funny. I'll tell you a story here about that in a second as well. So we met through wrestling. So we were both wrestlers prior to getting together, which it's funny because both of us prior to that were very much, I'm never gonna date another wrestler. That's too much. It's stressful. If you break up and you're working in the same areas, it's awkward. It's weird. But yeah, no, we just met at a local show, and we didn't talk for like a long time after this. But we have a mutual friend who's also part of our like tag group every now and again down here, and he was kind of wingman for both of us, and like, yeah, you guys have more in common than you think you do. And I'm like, do we? Are you sure? Yeah, so we ended up getting together. And that's the funny thing is the only thing that we really ever get in tips with each other about is wrestling. As funny as that sounds, it's so true. And that we talked about that a couple months ago. So Jimmy Jacobs of all people, he was at a show with us, and we're all just sitting in the locker room, and he's like, do you guys ever fight about wrestling? And I looked at him and I said, Jimmy, that is all we ever fight about. That's the only thing we ever have disagreements about. And it does present challenges, but we're really good about maneuvering them and not taking things too personally or whatever. If something doesn't go right, or if things get wonky, or if we have
Yeah.
we do a lot of tag matches together now, more than we used to, which is cool. And there are definitely days where, especially like a couple of our first times tagging together, we had to find our footing as a team. We got real life chemistry, but now we have to have this in-ring chemistry with our characters, and it was a growing pains process, is all I'll say. We got there eventually. So now when we have that, it's great. And storytelling wise, it's really easy to to maneuver that into, and we keep a lot of our, personal life separate from the wrestling part of it. But, we're a couple both in wrestling and in real life. So, we have our ways of maneuvering the two different ones. And, obviously they overlap sometimes, but for the most part, we're pretty level headed about it. But yes, the only thing we ever get in disagreements about are always wrestling related things. And sometimes it's literally just a matter of opinions on things. I like this spot, or he's a very logical based person, which I love about him. I absolutely adore. But there are times where I don't have a logical answer for him. Like he'll be like, why do you like this? Why do you like this wrestler? Or what about this person's character? Amuses you, or what don't you like about this person? And I'll be like, I don't know. I just like them. I just like them. And he's like, that doesn't make sense though. There has to be a reason. And, so that's like the little things we'll get in a little, heated arguments about every now and again. Or we like to, poke fun at each other. We call it rage baiting. And one of his favorite, we'll watch wrestling together, of course, as well. And, one of his favorite guys will be on TV and I'll be like, boo, that guy sucks, or whatever. And so we have those moments, and it's fun.
Who's your favourite to watch on TV, and how does that differ from who his favourite to watch on TV is?
Yeah. So my couple favorites, even like back when I first started versus now, like I still have some people that I like watching, but I liked them as the characters and the renditions of themselves that they were back when I first started watching. I'm a big Finn Balor guy, so he's my guy. I've been a Finn Balor fan since I started watching, and he likes Finn Balor. Don't get me wrong, he likes Finn Balor, but he likes to he gets in this joke with me, and he's like, "No, Prince Devitt was good, but Finn Balor, not." And like so that kind of goofy stuff. We're both big Rey Mysterio fans. He's been a Rey Mysterio fan since he was little. He started watching when he was like 8 or 9. And so those are a couple favorites. Big Hardy Boys guy, and then like those are big names for sure. And then in terms of like indie wrestlers too, my dream match is Billy Starks. I've been a fan of Billy Starks' work since I transitioned into like from just watching WWE as a fan into watching indie wrestling as a up and coming wrestler. Yeah, and so he always will like poke fun at me and things like that about, he likes her, he thinks she's really talented. He's like, oh, we had people, she used to have blue hair. So everyone's like, oh, someone one time in a match was like, oh, you're just a knockoff version of Billy Starks. And I was like, I laughed because it was funny. They broke me like in ring when that happened. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's actually super funny. Thank you. And yeah, so like just things like that we'll banter about back and forth. He's a big fan of Gunther, and I will poke fun at him from time to time because as talented as I think that man is, he does a really good job at being a heel and making people hate him. I will sometimes work myself into oh my gosh, I can't stand this guy. He's so awful, like, and I'm not talking about the wrestling. I'm just, and he'll be like, nah, that's my guy. That's the GOAT right there. So, we'll banter like that.
You mentioned that there wasn't a belt to fight for in the promotion you started with, and I've watched a few clips. You've won a few titles now, I think.
Yeah.
What was it like that first time winning a title?
Yeah. So there was a time that I guess this would be considered my like first championship win technically, but it was kind of like not swept under the rug, but it was kind of just like such a blip of, in this place all the way out and, nowhere. And the belt itself was just like a tag team belt that they just like stamped a piece of tape over that said like women's title. And so I guess that was my first technical win. I have mixed feelings about that one. So sometimes I will just kind of block that one out. But my first like official, what I consider, I have a tag belt I won in a tag team, and then I'll tell you about my first singles title. So my first title, which was a tag team title that I won down in Wyandotte, which is downriver, Michigan, was super cool. It was the first time that women have held those titles, and it was a tag title that a couple people prior, my boyfriend and his tag partner have had. So it was a nice little callback to, oh, you guys were tag champions at this same promotion with these same titles. And, several months later and a couple champions later, now here I am with my tag partner that, and we were kind of thrown together. We weren't really like what I would consider like established tag team. We didn't have like a reign of like, oh, we're tagging together before. Like we were both managers to the same guy in this promotion. And then we kind of just started, working together in that way. And they put these belts on us. And it was very cool because there's that, this history of this is the first time women have held these titles. Everyone was super happy about it, myself included. I was very humbled and very appreciative that they, did that. But so we were supposed to be heels, and we were wrestling this tag team, and they were supposed to be the baby faces, but with it just being 2 males versus 2 females, it got swapped around. We had our flowers moment and people cheering for us, and I was like, well, this is not what we're supposed to be doing right now, but nonetheless, it worked out fine. And we had a little rain, and then we eventually, of course, lost those, and that was fun. But yeah, no, I'm very appreciative that they, saw the moment to put women in that position, and that I was one of the 2 of them that they chose. It was really cool. And then in terms of singles titles, if I'm not mistaken, my very first singles title, and it was also a brand new championship. So a lot of the promotions that I have won championships in, one I still currently have. It was the first time they've had a women's championship. So I was the inaugural champion for that. So that always holds a special place too, because it's like, okay, I'm the first person to have this, period. And that was in a ladder match, or a TLC match rather. And it was my first time being in one of those types of matches too. So that was really cool. Very, like, almost a lot of emotion going on in the moment. Like, I didn't have my full on, bawling my eyes out, I just won this title at WrestleMania moment, but still, as I said, all of these I've won as heels. So I kind of have to have that, yeah, that's right, I am the champion, I did do this, moment. But that first singles title was really cool. I was at this promotion, in my boyfriend and our tag partner at the time were all kind of on top of the division, so to speak. And so they all came out and celebrated with me at the end of the show after I won the match. And, we all had our little celebratory moment. It was a very nice little moment in time to capture. So, yeah, it's humbling. It's very, it's just sweet, man. It's cool. It's nice to know that, people trust you to be the face of their company and to run their, their division, so to speak. If they, a lot of places growing a women's division, in real time. And it's nice to be able to have, a foot in working with that.
Yeah, because... Oh, sorry, Graham. I'll let you.
I was going to say, on you go, Cal.
But I was going to ask, obviously the position of women in wrestling, like compared to when you started and now, taking you've seen things are progressing all the time and getting better for you, for the women in wrestling.
Yeah. It's. I was just talking about this last night with a fellow wrestler, actually. Just like with any wrestler, you see people come and go, and, people that you think are going to go all the way with it, and they just kind of, either do it as a hobby or they just kind of fell out of love with it. And then you see people that you're like, I didn't think that you were going to last this long. People would tell them, and here they are, they're winning championships and doing really cool things. So yeah, it's nice to know that there's a lot of places that are starting to develop things. Or if they already have a division, that it's, being a lot, it's cleaned up. It's, quality over quantity. Yeah. I'm big on that. I would rather a company wait 10 years to get a women's title and then to have it on somebody that is very, like, just good, as opposed to, rushing, creating a title, putting it on the first woman they can find and just rolling with it. So yeah, it's been really nice. There's a promotion here in Michigan, actually, what I work for, Divine. It's an all women's company. So, they were around for a good while prior to me, of course, but then they were rebranded under new management. I became the champion for a good while there. It's just the guys in charge and everyone involved really is very, very, very good. Just they're, always thinking about new ways to do things, but to involve the talent in the decisions that are being made. And the shows they run are definitely quality over quantity. I think I love their shows because they will start at 7 and end by 9:30. So, you got 5 good matches. Everyone gets to go home early. It's wonderful. And they have had some good names on there too, of course. They'll bring in names every now and again, but even just having like local women wrestle other local women, a lot of the crowds that they bring in and the venue that they run in a bar called Uplift in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So it's a small bar area. Definitely not a quote wrestling crowd, but they will pop for anybody in that ring equally, which is great for us as indie wrestlers because they've brought in big names. They brought in the Jody Threats, the Danny Lunas, but these people just look at all of us like wrestlers, and they're like, yeah, that person's cool, and oh, they're on TV, that's cool too. But I like this person. They're not on TV, but they're just as cool to me as this person is. I'm like, that works in my favor.
I think that's the beauty of an indie show.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Suspending disbelief is a big one. Yeah.
Yeah. Having been quite old and followed wrestling since probably 1990, I think, 90 or 91. The change in how women are presented is a huge positive. I have to say.
Yeah.
I grew up through the Attitude Era, the Lawler stuff, all the pudding matches, and all the overtly sexualized rubbish that, even as a teenager, I couldn't sit and watch it with my folks because that was just odd. And in terms of, then having kids of my own who, I'm passionate about watching wrestling, I wanted to get them into it, and making sure they were seeing the right thing. The way that things have changed has been really, really positive, I would say. I'm not saying it's perfect by any stretch, but as well, I think for me the biggest change as a fan is that the women's divisions are presented as equal to the men's now, as opposed to being, for a while it was referred to on dirt sheets and stuff as the toilet break match before the main event. Now it's got equal footing at main events properly itself on merit and not just on pointless promoters trying to be okay. And I think that what we're seeing then is that the quality of matches is most of the time it's better than the men's matches.
Well,
we're
looking
like
at some of the Rumble.
Yeah.
Like the women's Rumble was incredible this year. Way ahead of the men's Rumble, I thought.
Sorry, on you go.
Oh no, you're all right. Yeah, no, I just in agreement there for sure. It has been it's been a breath of fresh air too, because of course, as a woman wanting to pursue wrestling and kind of looking at things at the current state of time, and there was obviously like this is post Divas era, and women have found their feet and they're being treated as equals, which is amazing. Of course, like you said, nothing's perfect. There's always work to be done, but even just the leaps and bounds from when I started versus where I'm at now has been tremendous, honestly.
Like, see, when you started, was there any, I'm trying to ask this at a time, but you feel any pressure yourself to maybe go in a more sexualized way? Was that present when you started? Did you get any pressure to do that?
So there's definitely, I think for me personally, it was very, I'm very pro do what makes you feel comfortable in your own skin. But for me personally, I've always been a bit more of a reserved person in that regard. I want to be presented for my talent first and foremost, and then everything else later. Like obviously, the wrestling business is it is a looks business. It's a talent business. It's a combination of a lot of things. And, having the blue hair, I stick out there. That's cool. I'm not saying looks don't matter because they absolutely do to some degree. But I was very focused on how can I make myself stand out in this ring in a way that's not going to be about how much or how little I'm wearing or what mannerisms I'm, feeding into the mass public, the cheap ways to go about it, so to speak. And, especially when I first started too, there was like maybe 5 or less women even just in the area in terms of girls that were training or girls that were working. And that was including some of the women that have been here for, years and years. Of course, they went through a lot more than what I did for the time being and so on. But I was very much focused on the physical aspect of things in a way where I was like, okay, I want to learn how to do this cool move. I want to stick out with this. I want to take this, normal variation of a move and make it mine or do something different with it. So I didn't necessarily feel pressured, so to speak, thankfully. But there were definitely ways that like I probably could have gotten here faster or would have, caught more eyes doing this here or doing that there. But like for me, fundamentally, I wasn't willing to bend to get there faster if
Yeah.
I can go the long way around by doing it the way I wanted to do it.
Because it's quite interesting. This did actually happen this week. I'm just in a new job, and they didn't know I do a podcast, and they heard I was doing wrestling this weekend, and I interviewing a wrestler, and I said, "Who is it?" And then I described you, and then some of the women were like, "What? This woman who do wrestling?" But I took my phone out and I showed them, the little promo I made, and one of them did actually say, "Oh, she looks so cool. I'll have to show my little girl that. She'll love that." I said, "That's because she just wants to see kick-ass girls." I said, "I didn't know wrestling did kick-ass girls." I said, "There's no shortage of it there. That's just show some wrestling. She'll get all the kick-ass woman she could ever want there."
Yeah. Yeah, and see, that's really what it's about. Like, especially, I mean, even still, being a heel too, it's a little harder for me to resist because now I have to be a heel and I'm not supposed to be, smiling and like, signing all these things for kids and taking pictures and doing all this and that. But it does really get my weak spot, I guess you could say, because, kids don't owe us anything. Like, they're just going to have genuine reactions to things and general responses. And I have had that, like, people come up with their kids to the merch tables, their little girls, whatever, and been like, we're seeing this positive, non-sexualized version of like women in power and women who just have, a presence about them that's not rooted in, misogyny or whatever the case may be there. So I've had a couple people do that, even Ethan. So Ethan is the owner of Divine, as I mentioned previously, the all-women's promotion that I work for here. He used to bring his daughter to shows. When he used to have a podcast with one of his friends, and so they'd come and they'd review the shows and everything, and he brought his little girl. And I remember him telling me that she was sitting front row watching another woman and myself have a match, and he pulled us to the side afterwards and he told us, he's like, like these are, like my daughter is amazed right now because she doesn't know what's going on, but she's just watching these girls have, this cool match, and it's not rooted in this, oh, we have to behave this way or we have to look this way or we have to act this way, So yeah, that's always a super positive experience I find when kids or people with their kids will be like, hey, we like this because we see you as, a person who's bringing, something positive out into the world, as opposed to, just doing it for a paycheck or just even doing it I call it the cheap way, the short way, whatever you want to call it,
What's the next step for Heather Blue?
That is a great question. So I think for 2026, my main goals are really just going more places and doing more things. I've done a lot in Michigan, there's places in Michigan that I haven't even debuted at yet, but I feel like I've hit the majority of what I consider like the core promotions in state. So I'm trying really to branch out, to travel more, get more miles on the car, make myself known more places, even if it's just going, setting up, tearing down, paying dues and so on. That's really how we got into some of the other places that we're currently at in different states. So yeah, I would say just trying to be out there more and, maybe get some more championships if we can, and just have fun and wrestle.
All right. Cool. Well, we'll end in our traditional way. It's just some quick fire fun questions for you. Are you ready? It's not intense trivia, Grain. I'm nice. I'm nice to our guests. I'm not nice to males. I give them the most brutal trivia ever. So, what's the one move you love hitting that gets the best crowd reaction?
I would say I do a swim through STO. I don't have a fun name for it yet. I gotta find one still, but that one's always a fun one, especially when the person snaps with it. That one's always a good one. So. If
you could steal any wrestler's entrance music, who would you go for?
Oh my gosh, probably Liv Morgan. I don't know. I like her entrance. I like her. Like, she's one of my favorite wrestlers on TV right now. She's just fun. I like that.
Okay. What's the most unexpectedly painful thing about being a wrestler that fans never think of?
Having to go back to work on Monday and all these fun, cool things that you did this past weekend is great. You didn't feel it when it happened in the ring, but now that the adrenaline's worn off and you have to go back to your shoot job for the week, you're just sore all the time. You feel like you're 80 years old.
If you had to describe your ring style in 3 words.
Explosive, bold, and energetic.
Oh, and this is a repeat of Graham's question. Which city or crowd surprised you most with how loud they were?
I guess I would say probably Ohio. Even though they hate me, they interact with me pretty well, so I'll take it.
What's the funniest thing you've heard someone yell at you? I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say the first thing that came to mind was not something I can say on here. So I would say they call me a Smurf a lot. They always go hey Smurfette, this, that, and the third. That one's always or Blue's Clues was what I've heard. Bluey, I've heard that one too. So
right. If you could bring back one retired match type just for yourself, which one would it be?
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna turn it around. I'm gonna ask you guys that one. I want to know your answers for that too.
Graham, you'd be the better one to ask here.
Oh, it's your question, Cal.
Oh no, I'm a returning fan, so I'm still catching up on about 20 years of history here. So.
For me, I don't know so much about retired match type. There is a match I've not seen in ages. Is just a straight up submissions match. I remember
that's a good one.
Okay, what's the most chaotic thing that's happened to you backstage?
I had a show where I was debuting at a venue and I left my gear at home. So I didn't realize it till I opened my suitcase and I had left it out to air dry after washing it. So I had my old gear in there, luckily, and that's what I wore. But my gear I meant to wear left an hour away at home.
This question could cause some issues for you later on. Which wrestler would you most want as a tag partner for one night only?
I would say probably Liv Morgan. I feel like her energy is just really fun and I would have a good time in that match.
Okay, let's see. What's the one part of your pre-match ritual that you would never admit to until now?
Probably that I don't have a super strict routine. I know a lot of people do. Sometimes I just grab an energy drink and stretch and hope for the best.
Thank you so much for coming along. And there's two questions. If we sent you a Hammerlock T-shirt, would you wear it to an event for us?
Yeah,
a T-shirt about
absolutely.
We'll get one done in blue. We'll get one done in blue for you.
Perfect. That's all I need.
And the last one is, would you ever come over to Scotland if you got the invite?
I would love to. So that's another thing too. So I still have to get a passport. That's my one thing that I really have just been locking on getting. But Max and I are both talking about that. We would love to be able to travel abroad and to go to other countries to wrestle. We've been to Canada once, but even that's as far as we've been able to go with it. But we'd love to go all across Scotland, England, all the places. Yeah.
I think it's safe to say if you come to Scotland, you've got at least 2 people will be turning up in the crowd for you.
Yep. Right, and that's all.
Myself and Graham we'll know when to boo. We'll definitely boo you.
There you go.
So, and Heather, if people want to follow you, find you, and also you're doing a special sale right now in some ring gear, aren't you? Is it still up on your face? Yeah, so you can publicize that.
Yeah. So I have some ring worn sets that I am willing to part ways with, just trying to get some room in my suitcase. I think I have 3 new sets that I haven't even debuted in yet because I have a problem with buying ring gear. But so these would be sets that I've won championships in them. I've had really good matches in them with names, things like that. So one of is a ring jacket, my original ring jacket that I customized and made myself from a thrift store. So that one is a real throwback one. If anyone wants to check those out, those are always pinned on the top of my social media profiles. So.
And they just look up Heather Blue and your name will come up.
Yep, Heather Blue Wrestling is my handle for most of mine.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you this. It's been nerve-wracking for me promoting you because one of our other hosts on the regular shows we do is also Heather. And it's been, and she has been saying, I keep expecting to get some messages on Facebook. Oh, you've suddenly changed career, Heather. You're working reception at an art centre. Now you're an indie wrestler. What gives? So yeah, I've managed to avoid that for about a month. But thank you so much for coming on, Heather. We've really enjoyed it. I think you've definitely got two big fans here in Scotland. We'll follow you and hopefully be there with the day you turn up on our shows as well. We'd love to welcome you.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
And some final thoughts, Graham?
My final thoughts are it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming on our little show, chatting with us.
Thank you.
and just being awesome.
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
and as with our Rumble show, Graham, we always say this: go out and support indie wrestling. If you're
Yes.
a wrestling fan, go out and support it. Please do. We've lost Heather there.
Oh no. Oh,
I don't know what happened there. Heather went dark when we said support indie
Wrestling.
Yeah, she ran
Yeah,
straight out.
she
supporting indie. That's it. But yeah, please go support indie wrestling. Please do if you're a
Yes.
wrestling fan, because without these guys, you wouldn't have your WrestleManias, as we keep saying. So
yeah.
please go out support. And we'll be back. We're back on Tuesday. We're reviewing Supernatural Season 2, but our next wrestling show is on Friday. We finally got some Scottish talent on. Chip Watson is our very first homegrown talent we're going to interview, and can't wait for that. And then after that, it's Big Rig Brian Colton. Do you know him, Heather? Or you're aware of him?
I feel like I've heard the name before. Yeah.
Yeah, Big Rig. And then we've got Jules, and I keep forgetting his mullet man. We just keep going. He's got the most epic mullet I've ever seen him.
Love
And we've also got Mickey Knuckles turning up with some later on as well, which is, yeah, she's something else.
She is. We down here in Michigan we call her Aunt Mickey. So
All right. So have you met her?
I have, yeah, yep. So we've worked a couple shows together. We
right.
were in like a multi-woman match before. Yeah, she's a doll. She is. She's a very eccentric personality, but she's great.
All right. Oh, well, there you go.
Looking
Plenty to look forward to. And all right. And again, massive thanks to Heather. We'll be following you, and we wish you all the very best, every success. And good night, everyone. We'll see you all very soon.
Thanks, guys.